this week when I went for a massage, I had a bit of a different experience than what I normally do. Normally, it is relaxing, it helps me sleep, it helps deal with any issues causing chronic pain in my neck and my back. This time, during the process, I started getting these past emotional wounds and this past emotional pain being triggered and come up, which hasn't happened to me before. Started off the session feeling this intense, unconditional love, and it felt like, am I really allowed to feel this? And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's coming from another person. It can just be that you are in a place where you're able to receive that, and that the person who is facilitating the experience is a person who is safe and provides you with that emotional safety to open your heart. Because if you've been hurt in any way, which most of us have, it can be really scary and feel not safe to open your heart to feeling that intense, beautiful, unconditional love, which is always present for us. I started to feel some discomfort, not really physical discomfort, but emotional discomfort. I started to feel irritation, like some grumpiness coming up. I started to have these thoughts going through my mind where I was thinking, I feel like a burden to the therapist. I don't want to spend too much of their time, so I want to leave as soon as possible so I'm not a burden to them. Of course, I'm paying for this, so it doesn't make any sense for me to be thinking in this way. And that was one of the clues which told me this is an emotion that is being triggered from within you, which can happen in these kind of therapeutic situations. Because massage can be something which doesn't just promote healing physically, but sometimes it can trigger some emotional healing as well. The massage therapist was manipulating my head in certain angles and stretches, and in this situation you're supposed to relax your head as much as possible as the patient and allow them to do the work, but naturally your body kind of tenses up. It'll resist them moving your head in certain places if the mind thinks, oh, that's where your head's supposed to be, and make it more difficult for them. Not that it's probably that difficult, but you're kind of counteracting what you're supposed to be doing there. For me, it felt like a desire to please, like I want to do the right thing. What came up in my mind was like, you're not relaxing enough and you're doing it wrong. There is this self-judgment against myself. Again, it doesn't make sense in a therapeutic context. As the client, you don't need to do it right. You just need to lie there and receive. The best way I can describe what I felt after thinking about it later is I felt this feeling of not being worthy to receive that help, as if I didn't deserve to receive that attention and that care. This was a very deep feeling, and it felt deeply uncomfortable. It felt so uncomfortable that I felt the urge to want to get out of there as soon as possible. This feeling of not being worthy and not deserving receiving. I think because this is someone that I've developed trust with and has become a safe space for me to be able to feel through some deep emotions like that. That's why those emotions came up like that in such a strong way, and I'm all here for it. I'm all for doing that level of healing. I did feel embarrassment later on about having felt that and also having expressed that to the therapist, which is a good idea because that's someone who's there to help you. And I did share a bit about what I was feeling because, of course, on my face, I wasn't happy after the treatment, even though it was excellent. And I'm very happy with the treatment because those emotions were triggered in me. I was feeling very uncomfortable. And I did communicate, hopefully well enough to them, that I'm aware that this is something that was being triggered. And actually, they did a bit of coaching with me in using the breath to work through that, which was a really fantastic way of distracting yourself from the thoughts that are going on and recentering yourself. This anxiety that came up afterwards about worrying whether I had communicated well enough to the therapist so that they wouldn't go home and feel anxious about whether they did a good enough job or not reminds me of what came up for me when I went to the God's Kid workshop this past weekend by Kyle Cease. He was talking about releasing the pressure for himself to hold the space for the people listening whenever he was on stage or hosting an event. And this reminded me of this people-pleasing tendency of worrying when I was texting someone, did I say the right thing? And there's this anxiety around it, even when it doesn't make sense to have that much anxiety around it. So this anxiety about you controlling other people's feelings for you because there's this pattern that doesn't feel safe enough to rest in the confidence and security that someone will still like you even if you don't say exactly the right thing. Basically releasing yourself from the responsibility of managing other people's emotions. On theme of feeling worthy of receiving, if you are feeling that coming up for you or you recognize that as a pattern in your life, you can do an exercise of imagining or having an affirmation that you say to yourself, or even just writing silently in a journal where you read the words that you're writing, and this can just help you cement the idea that yes, you are worthy of having people in your life where you don't need to feel anxious about saying the wrong thing, where you can feel enough peace and safety to let go of that pattern. That's a pattern that was used to survive an unsafe environment, but now you're safe. And yes, you are worthy of receiving help, of receiving love, and that can mean even giving love and help to yourself. So as part of this exercise, imagine specific ways in which you could receive love that are particularly meaningful or helpful to you, and create this light bulb or this sense of freedom where you realize this new world that you're entering, it feels so much lighter, so much more beautiful, so much more harmonious. You are worthy of receiving harmonious interactions, harmonious friendships. You are worthy of receiving someone who asks you how your day was, who is interested in your ideas and opinions, who is invested in your feelings and your well-beings, who takes initiative in making plans for you, who offers to take some of the stress off your shoulders. Take some time to really think deeply about this. Use it as a way to expand your worldview and your perception about what's possible. Start to introduce new ideas of what's possible for you, and even adjust rules about what you think is normal or realistic to accept. Just start playing with ideas of different ways where you could receive in your life, things that maybe you weren't even open to before because you didn't think they were possible. Now that you've purged the pain, you want to capitalize on the openness that you're feeling within your heart to introduce possibility in ways that bring you joy, in ways that bring a smile to your face, because that's what receiving does. It brings a smile to your face. Imagine showing up and just being so thoughtful and considerate of you that it brings a smile to your face. So think of some specific examples and scenarios, and you can visualize it, you can say it to yourself out loud, you can write it down. You are a beautiful being, exploring and discovering your nature that is rooted in love, and discovering how you can experience love in your life to greater depths and degrees.